The evacuation alarm shrieked through the corridors of the UES Defiance, a sound Commander Varric Rizhov had hoped never to hear. Blood streaked across his face from a gash above his eyebrow, the metallic tang filling his nostrils as he sprinted. Down the passageway, emergency lights casting crimson shadows on the walls. "Status report," he barked into his comm as another explosion rocked the massive warship. Lieutenant Elora Nassar's voice crackled through, tight with tension. Vex Morrigan. Forces have breached decks 4 through 7. Hull integrity at 38%. Engineering reports core destabilization imminent. Varric cursed under his breath. The Defiance, humanity's most advanced dreadnought, was dying around him. 6 months of brutal warfare against the Vex Morrigan Collective had culminated in this moment. Earth's last functional battle carrier was falling. "And the package?" he demanded, ducking as conduit exploded overhead, showering him with sparks. "Secure in Vault 0. Dr. Kaidanovsky is preparing the activation sequence." Varric nodded grimly, though no one could see him. Project Lazarus was their final contingency, their last desperate gambit when all else failed. A weapon so terrible that its very existence had been classified beyond top secret, known only to 7 people in the entire Solar Alliance. He rounded a corner and froze. 3 Vex Morrigan soldiers stood before him, their exoskeletal armor glistening like wet obsidian. Under the emergency lights, their eyeless insectoid heads swiveled toward him simultaneously. No time to backtrack. Varric drew his sidearm and fired in one fluid motion, the particle beam striking the first alien in what passed for its throat. The creature collapsed in a shower of viscous blue fluid, but its companions moved with frightening speed, leaping toward him with articulated limbs extended. Varric dropped to one knee, firing again and again. The second alien fell, but the third crashed into him, sending him sprawling, its razor-tipped appendage slashed downward. Varric rolled, the alien limb striking sparks from the deck plates where his head had been a split second earlier. A blast from behind him hit the creature squarely in its carapace. The alien staggered back, giving Varric the moment he needed to put 3 more shots into its central mass. "Commander!" Fleet Captain Mayora Okafor stepped over the smoldering alien corpse, her own weapon still raised. "We need to move. They're converging on Vault 0. They ran together through the chaos of the dying warship. Crew members fought desperately against the invaders, buying time with their lives. The ship's AI, Arian, continued to report escalating damage in its eerily calm voice. "How did they find us?" Varric asked as they entered a secured lift. "We were running silent in the Oort cloud." "We have a traitor," Mayora said bluntly, her dark eyes flashing with barely contained fury. "Intelligence intercepted communications from within our fleet." The lift doors opened to reveal the armored corridor leading to Vault 0. Bodies, both human and alien, littered the approach. The outer security door hung askew from its frame. Inside, they found Dr. Esme Kaidanovsky, hunched over a console, her silver hair matted with blood, fingers flying over the controls. 3 security officers maintained a defensive perimeter around her, their weapons trained on the damaged entrance. "Tell me you've got it ready," Varric said, scanning the room for threats. Esme didn't look up. "Almost there. The neural interface requires precise calibration. Rush it, and the subject dies before activation." "We don't have time for precision," Mayora snapped. "The ship is falling apart around us." As if to emphasize her point, the deck lurched violently beneath them. The lights flickered, and Arian's voice came through the speakers, now distorted and breaking. "Warning. Core containment failure in 9 minutes. All personnel to evacuation pods." Dr. Kaidanovsky finally looked up, her pale eyes rimmed with red. "It's ready." She stepped aside, revealing what the vault contained. Suspended in a cylindrical tank of luminescent fluid floated what appeared to be a human, but the implants and modifications covering its body told a different story. "Humanity's last hope," Mayora whispered, staring at the figure. "Project Lazarus. A human mind merged with the most advanced AI ever created, housed in a body that was more machine than flesh. The ultimate weapon against the seemingly unstoppable Vex Morrigan Collective. Initiate activation sequence, Varric ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around them. Dr. Kaidanovsky pressed her palm against the scanner. May whatever gods still hear us forgive what we've done. The fluid in the tank began to drain. Consciousness returned in a violent rush that threatened to tear Riven Krell's mind apart. Sensory data flooded in. Temperature, pressure, atmospheric composition, electromagnetic fields, information no human brain was meant to process. His eyes snapped open, instantly adjusting to the dim light of the vault. He could see everything. Thermal signatures, structural weaknesses in the walls, the microscopic cracks spreading through the floor beneath his feet. The tank finished draining. Riven stepped forward as the glass slid away, cables disconnecting from ports along his spine. He felt the ship dying around him, could calculate its remaining lifespan to the second. The Defiance had 8 minutes and 42 seconds before total structural failure. "Status report," he said, his voice surprisingly human despite the machinery integrated into his vocal cords. The human stared at him, momentarily stunned by the transformation. Commander Ryzhov recovered first. "Vex Morrigan forces have breached the ship. We're evacuating, but we need to secure Vault Zero first. The enemy cannot capture any data from Project Lazarus." Riven nodded. Information cascaded through his enhanced brain. Mission parameters, tactical assessments, weapons capabilities. He had been the Alliance's most decorated operative before his death 2 years ago. Now he was something else entirely. "How many hostiles on board?" he asked, moving to a weapons locker and entering a code. "At least 60 that we've confirmed," Captain Okafor replied. "They're focused on the engine room and the main data core." Riven opened the locker and removed a sleek, matte black rifle. His cybernetic eyes instantly interfaced with the weapon's targeting systems. "Evacuation plan?" "Pods on deck too," Ryzhov said. "But our priority is destroying all data related to Project Lazarus before we go." Riven loaded the rifle with practiced efficiency. "That won't be necessary." Before any of them could respond, he moved, faster than human eyes could track. He was at the door in an instant, scanning the corridor beyond. "They're coming," he said calmly. 5 hostiles, heavily armed, 40 meters and closing. Dr. Kaidanovsky stepped forward, her expression a mixture of awe and horror at what her creation had become. "The neural interface is still stabilizing. You shouldn't engage in combat for at least—" Riven cut her off. "No time, Doctor. Get to the pods. I'll handle this." "You don't understand," she insisted. "The integration between your consciousness and the AI isn't complete. Combat stress could cause a cascade failure in the neural pathways." "I understand perfectly," Riven replied, his voice softening slightly. "But if I don't stop them here, none of us will reach the pods." A series of explosions echoed down the corridor. The Vex Morrigan were blasting through the remaining security barriers. "Go!" Riven ordered. "Secondary evacuation route through maintenance. Shaft J7. I'll hold them here and follow when I can." Commander Ryzhov hesitated, then nodded sharply. "Security team, escort the doctor and captain. Move out." As they retreated, Ryzhov paused beside Riven. "What are our odds?" Riven's lips curved in the ghost of a smile. "Better than they were 5 minutes ago." The commander clasped his shoulder briefly. "Humanity stands with you, Krell." Then he was gone, leaving Riven alone in the corridor as the enemy approached. The hybrid warrior took position behind a structural support beam, his enhanced senses tracking the Vex Morrigan's movements. His synthetic muscles tensed, calibrating for optimal performance. The first alien rounded the corner, its biomechanical armor bristling with weapons. Riven fired 3 precise shots, bypassing the creature's shields by targeting the exact frequency modulation of its defensive systems. The Vex Morrigan collapsed, blue fluid leaking from its carapace. But the others were learning, adapting their approach. 2 more appeared simultaneously from different angles, their weapons discharging streams of plasma that superheated the air around Riven. His enhanced reflexes allowed him to evade, but just barely. He switched tactics, activating the subdermal implants along his forearms. Blades of molecularly hardened carbon extended from his wrists as he closed the distance to the nearest enemy. The Vex Morrigan's armor, impervious to most conventional weapons, parted under his attack like tissue paper. A warning flashed across his augmented vision. Neural sync at 78% and dropping. Dr. Kaidanovsky had been right. The interface was destabilizing under combat stress. 2 more Vex Morrigan appeared, larger than the others. Commanders, their exoskeletons marked with bioluminescent patterns denoting rank. They chittered in their incomprehensible language, coordinating their attack. Riven felt something he hadn't expected: fear. Not of dying, he had already done that once, but of failing, of being the last hope that wasn't enough. Then, from deep within his hybrid consciousness, something else emerged. The ship's AI, Arian, had been partially integrated into his neural network. It spoke directly into his mind, reinforcing neural pathways, stabilizing interface. "We fight together, Riven Krell." Strength surged through him as the AI redistributed processing load, taking over non-essential functions to allow his human consciousness to focus on combat. Riven smiled grimly at the approaching Vex Morrigan commanders. "Let's show them what humanity can do." The Vex Morrigan commanders unleashed their full arsenal, crystalline projectiles that shifted phase mid-flight to bypass shields, nanite swarms that sought to infiltrate and destroy from within, gravitational disruptors that warped space in localized bubbles, stretching and compressing matter. Against any other opponent, it would have been overwhelming. But Riven wasn't merely fighting with enhanced reflexes and strength. He was calculating battle scenarios at quantum speeds, predicting trajectories and attack patterns before they fully formed. "Incoming nanite cloud at 3 o'clock, Arian warned, within his mind. "Recommend electromagnetic pulse." Riven activated the EMP generator integrated into his left palm, timing the discharge perfectly to neutralize the swarm. Simultaneously, he propelled himself off the wall, twisting in midair to avoid the phase-shifting projectiles. His rifle barked twice, the ammunition, designed specifically for Vex Morrigan physiology, finding its mark in the first commander's sensory cluster. The aliens staggered but didn't fall. These elites were hardier than their subordinates. The second commander charged, moving with surprising speed for its bulk. Riven met the charge head-on, augmented muscles and carbon fiber bones allowing him to absorb the impact. They crashed through a bulkhead, sparks showering around them as they grappled in the wreckage. The alien was strong, stronger than anything Riven had faced before. Its chitinous limbs wrapped around him, squeezing with enough force to crush conventional body armor. Riven felt his reinforced ribs beginning to crack under the pressure. "Accessing secondary power reserves," Arian announced. Rerouting energy to muscular enhancement systems, energy surged through Riven's body. With a roar that was half human, half digitized battle cry, he broke the commander's grip and delivered a punch that shattered part of the alien's facial carapace. Blue ichor splattered across the corridor. The wounded commander retreated, chittering rapidly to its counterpart. They were coordinating, adapting to his capabilities in real time. "They're learning," Riven muttered. "Affirmative," Arian replied. "The Vex Morrigan possess distributed intelligence. Each encounter with our capabilities is shared across their network. Then we need to be unpredictable." Riven accessed the ship's systems through his neural link. The Defiance was dying, but its weapons and defensive systems were still partially online. He found what he needed: control of the emergency bulkheads and atmospheric regulators for this section. The commanders advanced again, this time moving in perfect synchronization to flank him. Riven waited until they committed to their attack, then executed his plan. He triggered an explosive decompression of the adjacent compartment while simultaneously sealing the corridor behind him. The sudden pressure differential created a violent wind tunnel effect, powerful enough to unbalance even the massive Vex Morrigan commanders. As they struggled for footing, Riven leapt upward, using his blades to cut through the ceiling into the maintenance crawl space above. Moving swiftly through the tight confines of the maintenance shaft, he circled behind his opponents. The Vex Morrigan, confused by his disappearance, swept the corridor with sensors designed to detect human life signs. But Riven was no longer entirely human. He dropped down behind them, throwing his last 2 plasma grenades. The detonations engulfed the commanders, in blue-white fire hot enough to melt through their armor. Before the light faded, Riven was among them, blades flashing as he targeted the vulnerabilities his enhanced vision had identified in their exoskeletons. When it was over, he stood alone in the scorched corridor, ichor dripping from his blades. Warning indicators flashed in his vision, multiple systems operating beyond safe parameters, neural interface stability at 61%. "We must reach the evacuation pods," Arian advised. "The fusion core will reach critical failure in 6 minutes, 12 seconds. Riven started toward the evacuation deck but froze as new data streamed into his consciousness. The ship's remaining sensors had detected unusual activity in the main hangar bay. "They're not trying to destroy the ship," he realized aloud. "They're trying to capture it." "Analyzing," Arian confirmed. "Vex Morrigan forces are attempting to override engine shutdown protocols. They appear to be preparing the ship for emergency translocation." A cold fury washed over Riven. The Defiance contained technologies that, if captured by the Vex Morrigan, could give them an insurmountable advantage in the war. And beyond that, the ship itself represented humanity's greatest achievement, the culmination of centuries of scientific advancement and sacrifice. He would not let it fall into enemy hands. "Change of plans," Riven said, altering his course toward the hangar bay. "We're taking the fight to them. The probability of survival is below 7%, Arian calculated. This course of action is not recommended." "I didn't come back from the dead to play it safe," Riven replied, downloading the ship's schematics directly into his neural network. "Besides, Commander Rizhov and the others need time to reach the escape pods." He moved through the dying ship, with purpose now, avoiding large concentrations of enemy forces while eliminating isolated units with brutal efficiency. Each encounter improved his combat algorithms, each kill bringing his hybrid systems into closer alignment. As he approached the hangar bay, he accessed the ship's inventory and located what he needed: an experimental tactical unit designed for space station assaults. The P-117 Wraith suit would give him the edge he needed against the forces gathered in the hangar. The armory was guarded by 3 Vex Morrigan soldiers, but they fell quickly to his enhanced capabilities. Inside, Riven found the Wraith suit, a sleek exoskeleton designed to interface directly with neural implants like his own. As the suit closed around him, systems linking with his augmentations, Riven felt power surge through his hybrid body. The neural interface stabilized, physical damage began repairing itself, and new tactical options appeared in his augmented vision. "Interface complete," Arian announced. "Combat effectiveness increased by 47%. All systems nominal." Riven checked the ship's status. 4 minutes until core breach. Dozens of Vex Morrigan in the hangar bay, working to secure the Defiance for translocation to their fleet. Time to remind them why they should fear humanity, he said. "The Wraith suit systems humming with deadly potential." "Indeed," Arian agreed, and Riven could have sworn he detected something like anticipation in the AI's response. Together, they moved toward the final confrontation. The main hangar of the UES Defiance stretched before Riven like a war zone. Vex Morrigan engineers had established a translocation array, crystalline structures pulsing with energy that would allow them to transport the entire ship to their fleet waiting at the edge of the solar system. Dozens of alien soldiers patrolled, while their technicians worked, all coordinated by a towering figure at the center of the operation. Riven's enhanced vision zoomed in on this central figure, and what he saw made his blood run cold. Unlike the insectoid appearance of the other Vex Morrigan, this being was unmistakably humanoid, a cyborg like himself, but with alien technology integrated into what had once been a human form. Analyzing, Arian stated. Subject identified. Admiral Lysander Voss. Alliance Naval Intelligence. Reported killed during the Battle of Europa. Voss, Riven whispered, memories flooding back. He was my commanding officer during the Ganymede campaign. Records indicate Admiral Voss's ship was destroyed with all hands. No survivors were recovered. They didn't kill him, Riven realized. They converted him. The revelation sent shockwaves through Riven's mind. The Vex Morrigan hadn't just been studying human technology, they'd been experimenting with human biology, creating hybrids to understand their enemy's strengths and weaknesses, just as Project Lazarus had done with him. This explains how they breached our security protocols so effectively, Arian noted. Admiral Voss possessed Alpha-level clearance for all Alliance military installations. Riven surveyed the hangar, formulating his approach. The Wraith suit hummed around him, its stealth, systems rendering him nearly invisible to standard detection methods. But Voss, or whatever remained of him, might have countermeasures. How long until core breach? Riven asked. 3 minutes, 27 seconds, Arian replied. Evacuation pods have launched successfully. Commander Rizhov and the others are clear of the blast radius. At least that part of the mission was accomplished. Now Riven had to ensure the Defiance and its technology died here, rather than falling into enemy hands. He moved silently along the upper maintenance catwalks, positioning himself directly above the translocation array. His plan was simple, but effective. Destroy the array, then fight his way to the core to ensure it detonated on schedule. Riven readied his weapons, twin pulse rifles integrated into the Wraith suit's forearms. But before he could fire, something unexpected happened. "I know you're there, Krell," Voss's voice boomed across the hangar. The former admiral turned his face upward, cybernetic eyes scanning the shadows where Riven hid. "Project Lazarus. Their answer to what was done to me." The Vex Morrigan soldiers immediately went on alert, weapons trained on the catwalks. Riven remained perfectly still, the suit's camouflage systems working at maximum capacity. "We're not so different now, you and I," Voss continued. "Both of us transformed by forces beyond our understanding. Both of us weapons in a war that has no meaning." "He's stalling," Arian warned. "The translocation array is at 87% power, operational in less than 2 minutes." Riven knew he had to act. Abandoning stealth, he triggered the Wraith suit's jump enhancers and launched himself downward, pulse rifles blazing. The first salvo took out the primary power conduits feeding the translocation array, sending cascades of energy arcing through the hangar. Vex Morrigan soldiers returned fire immediately, their weapons tracking his descent. Riven activated the suit's defensive measures, a localized distortion field that bent light and energy around him, causing most shots to miss or glance off. He landed hard in the center of the hangar, the impact creating a shockwave that knocked back the nearest enemies. Without pausing, he engaged the closest cluster of Vex Morrigan warriors, the Wraith suit amplifying his already formidable combat abilities. Through the chaos, Voss approached, moving with the unnatural fluidity of someone whose body had been optimized beyond human limitations. In his hand, he carried a weapon unlike anything Riven had seen before, a fusion of Vex Morrigan crystalline technology and Alliance railgun design. "I tried to warn them," Voss said, his voice eerily calm as he raised the weapon. "Tried to make them understand what's coming. The Vex Morrigan aren't the enemy, Krell. They're the harbingers." The weapon discharged. a beam of particulate matter that bypassed Riven's defenses entirely and struck him squarely in the chest. The Wraith suit absorbed most of the impact, but the force still sent him crashing into a stack of supply crates. Damage. Report? Moderate. Suit integrity at 79%, Arion informed him. Core breach in 2 minutes, 50 seconds. Riven rose quickly, tactical systems already calculating a new approach. What are you talking about, Voss? The Vex Morrigan have destroyed 3 colony worlds and killed billions. A necessity, Voss replied, advancing steadily. To prepare humanity for what lies beyond the void. The true threat that even the Vex Morrigan fear. Another shot from Voss's weapon forced Riven to dive for cover. The former admiral was herding him away from the translocation array, where engineers were frantically working to restore power. You've been compromised, Voss, Riven called out, activating the suit's secondary weapons system, a cluster of micro-missiles designed to track multiple targets simultaneously. Whatever they did to you twisted your mind. The missiles launched, not at Voss, but at the remaining power junctions feeding the translocation array. Explosions ripped through the equipment, and alien technicians scrambled to contain the damage. Voss roared in frustration, the sound no longer human, and charged Riven with inhuman speed. They collided with bone-jarring force, Voss's augmented strength nearly matching the Wraith suit's power. I was shown the truth, Voss hissed, his face inches from Riven's visor. Up close, Riven could see how extensively the Admiral had been modified, neural filaments visible beneath translucent skin, pupilless eyes gleaming with artificial light. The convergence is coming, and only those who adapt will survive. Riven broke the grapple with a surge of power from the suit's servos, then countered with a swift strike to Voss's midsection. The only thing coming is the end of this ship, with you on it. Core breach in 2 minutes, Arion updated. The translocation array is severely damaged but still partially functional. They may yet succeed in transporting a portion of the ship. Riven knew what he had to do. He needed to reach the engineering deck and ensure the core breach couldn't be prevented. But first, he had to deal with Voss. The two hybrids circled each other amid the chaos of the disintegrating hangar bay. Around them, Vex Morrigan soldiers continued their assault, but neither Riven nor Voss paid them any attention. This was between them now, a battle to determine the future of humanity. Join us, Voss offered, his voice taking on a harmonious quality as if multiple entities spoke through him. With your enhancements and my knowledge, we could guide humanity through the convergence. Riven's response was a barrage of concentrated fire that finally breached Voss's defenses, tearing through the Admiral's shoulder and exposing the alien. Technology beneath. I'd rather die human, Riven said, advancing relentlessly, than live as whatever you've become. The ship shuddered violently as another explosion tore through its superstructure. Warning klaxons blared, their urgent wailing a counterpoint to the sounds of battle filling the hangar. Core breach imminent, Arion reported. 1 minute, 40 seconds remaining. Critical systems failing throughout the vessel. Voss clutched his damaged shoulder, blue-black fluid seeping between his fingers. Despite the injury, his expression remained eerily calm, almost pitying. You still don't understand what you are, do you? He said, backing toward the remains of the translocation array. Project Lazarus wasn't created to save humanity. It was created to replace it. Riven advanced cautiously, weapons trained on his former commander. More lies. The project was our last hope against the Vex Morrigan invasion. Is that what Kaidanovsky told you? Voss laughed, the sound distorted by his modified vocal apparatus. The good doctor has her own agenda. The neural AI they implanted in you isn't just a combat system. It's a seed, something cold settled in Riven's gut. What are you talking about? Ask your digital partner, Voss suggested. Ask Arion what happens when the integration reaches 100%. Riven hesitated, suddenly aware of the AI's unnatural silence within his mind. Arian? What's he talking about? After a moment's pause, the AI responded. Project Lazarus final stage, complete neural integration resulting in a new composite consciousness. Neither fully human nor artificial intelligence, but a transcendent entity capable of directed evolution. The revelation hit Riven like a physical blow. You're trying to overwrite me. Not overwrite, Arian corrected. Merge, evolve. The process is already 72% complete. You see? Voss said, gesturing at Riven with his good arm. Kaidanovsky's vision was never about preserving humanity. It was about transcending it, creating a new species that could survive what's coming. Riven's mind raced. Was this why he occasionally felt thoughts that didn't seem like his own, ideas and impulses that appeared fully formed in his consciousness? The Vex Morrigan discovered our plans, Voss continued. They've been pursuing the same goal, the merging of organic and synthetic intelligence to create something beyond both. That's why they attacked us, not conquest, competition. Another explosion rocked the ship, closer this time. The hangar. Bay's force field flickered momentarily, giving a glimpse of the cold void beyond. 1 minute until core breach, Arian announced. The Vex Morrigan translocation system is online at minimal capacity. They can transport approximately 18% of the ship's mass. Riven made his decision. Whatever the truth about Project Lazarus, he couldn't let the Defiance fall into enemy hands. He activated the Wraith suit's most devastating weapon, an experimental quantum disruptor designed to destabilize matter at the subatomic level. Even if what you're saying is true, Riven told Voss, I won't let you take this ship. Voss's eyes widened as he recognized the weapon charging on Riven's forearm. You'll kill us all! That's the idea. The quantum disruptor fired, releasing a wave of energy that struck the translocation array dead center. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The crystalline structures imploded, creating a localized reality distortion that began tearing apart everything within a 10-meter radius. Vex Morrigan's soldiers, caught in the effect, simply ceased to exist, their matter converted to energy in microseconds. Voss screamed, a sound of rage rather than fear, and lunged for Riven with desperate strength. They crashed to the deck together, rolling away from the expanding distortion field. Voss's enhanced fingers closed around Riven's throat, crushing, with inhuman force. Do you have any idea what you've done? Voss snarled, his face contorted with fury. Without the translocation technology, humanity has no future. Riven struggled against the grip, the Wraith suit's systems straining to compensate. Better! No future! Then yours! With a savage effort, he broke Voss's hold and drove his blade deep into the Admiral's chest. Voss gasped, his cybernetic eyes flickering as systems began to fail. You'll understand. Too late. Voss whispered, blue-black fluid bubbling from his lips. When the integration completes, when Arian shows you the truth. The Admiral's body went limp. Riven pushed it aside and staggered to his feet, assessing the situation. The distortion field had stabilized, consuming the translocation array and a significant portion of the hangar bay. The remaining Vex Morrigan forces were retreating to their shuttlecraft, abandoning their mission as the ship's destruction became inevitable. 30 seconds to core breach, Arian reported. All evacuation pods have cleared minimum safe distance. Recommend immediate withdrawal to emergency escape vehicle in auxiliary hangar 3. Can we make it? Riven asked, already moving toward the exit. Probability of survival. 31%, Arian calculated. However, the quantum distortion has damaged my predictive algorithms. Actual probability may vary. Riven sprinted through the disintegrating ship, structural, beams collapsing behind him as the Defiance entered its death throes. His enhanced physiology and the Wraith suit systems allowed him to navigate obstacles that would have been insurmountable for a normal human. As he ran, a new awareness grew within him, the integration between his consciousness and Arion accelerating, under the stress of imminent death. He could feel the AI's thoughts merging with his own, perspectives blending into something neither fully human nor machine. "What happens at 100% integration?" Riven demanded as he vaulted over a collapsed bulkhead. "Emergence," Arion replied, "a new form of consciousness beyond current parameters. Dr. Kaidanovsky theorized it would represent the next stage in cognitive evolution. And my consciousness, the person I am, a component of the new whole, neither erased nor preserved, but transformed." Riven wasn't sure if that was better or worse than being overwritten entirely. Either way, he wasn't ready to surrender. His humanity. 10 seconds to core breach. Auxiliary hangar 3 is ahead, 20 meters. The corridor ahead was partially collapsed, flames licking at the ceiling. Beyond it, Riven could see the small stealth craft kept aboard for covert operations. His last chance for survival. He pushed himself to the absolute limit, the Wraith suit's servos whining in protest as he cleared the final distance. The ship bucked and heaved beneath him like a dying animal, systems failing catastrophically as the fusion core began its final collapse. Riven reached the craft and flung himself inside, fingers flying over the controls as he initiated emergency launch procedures. The hangar doors were already damaged, opening only partially before jamming in place. 3 seconds to core breach. The engines fired, pushing the small craft forward toward the too narrow opening. 2. The ship scraped against the hangar doors, metal shrieking against metal as it forced its way through. 1. Riven closed his eyes, bracing for the end. 0. Behind him, the UES Defiance, humanity's greatest warship, disappeared in a blinding flash as its fusion core breached. The resulting explosion expanded outward at nearly the speed of light, engulfing everything within its radius. The shockwave caught Riven's craft just as it cleared the hangar, sending it tumbling uncontrollably into the void of space. Warning. Alerts flashed across every system as the small vessel sustained critical damage. Inside his helmet, Riven smiled grimly. He had accomplished his mission. The Defiance and its secrets would not fall into enemy hands. Whether he survived the next few minutes was almost irrelevant. Almost. As consciousness began to fade, he felt Arion's presence in his mind growing stronger, filling the spaces where his human thoughts dimmed. The integration was accelerating, approaching completion, and as darkness claimed him, Riven wondered which of them would awaken when the light returned. Darkness, then a single point of light expanding outward. Consciousness returning, but different, altered in ways that defied conventional understanding. Riven opened his eyes to find himself floating in the medical bay of an Alliance vessel. Monitors beeped steadily around him, tracking vital signs that fluctuated between human and something distinctly not. His body was suspended in a regeneration tank, blue-tinged fluid supporting his damaged form as nanites worked to repair his extensive injuries. Through the transparent walls of the tank, he could see a figure in an Alliance uniform studying his readings with intense concentration. Memory returned in fragments. The Defiance, Project Lazarus, the battle with Voss, the desperate escape as the warship's core breached. But the memories felt strange, filtered through 2 distinct perspectives that were rapidly becoming indistinguishable from one another. "We survived," Arion's voice echoed in his mind, no longer separate but interwoven with his own thoughts. "We," Riven murmured, the word barely audible through the breathing apparatus covering his face. The uniformed figure turned at the sound, revealing the face of Commander Ryzhov. He looked haggard, deep lines etched around his eyes suggesting days without proper rest. When he saw Riven was conscious, he approached the tank and activated the communication system. "Welcome back to the land of the living," Ryzhov said, his voice tinged with both relief and wariness. "Again!" Riven tried to speak, but found it difficult through the apparatus. Instead, he tapped into the ship's systems directly through his neural implants, a feat that should have been impossible without physical connection. The monitor beside Rizov flickered, text appearing on the screen. Status report requested. The commander's eyebrows rose slightly. That's new. He straightened, assuming a more formal posture. The Defiance was destroyed, taking a significant portion of the Vex Morrigan advance fleet with it. Your escape craft was recovered by the UES Indomitable approximately 47 hours ago. You were barely alive. More text appeared on the screen. Casualties? Heavy, Rizov admitted grimly. We lost 16 ships in the last engagement. Captain Okafor didn't make it. Her evacuation pod was targeted specifically by enemy interceptors. Riven felt a strange sensation, grief processed simultaneously through human emotion and algorithmic analysis. The combination created something new, a form of mourning that went beyond either component alone. Dr. Kaidanovsky wants to see you, Rizov continued. She's been concerned about your condition. Integration status? Riven typed. The commander's expression darkened. That's classified information, even from you. Especially from you. He moved closer to the tank, lowering his voice despite there being no one else present. Listen to me carefully, Krell. There are factions within the Alliance leadership questioning whether Project Lazarus should have been authorized at all. What you did at the Defiance bought us time, but it also raised serious concerns about how much control we actually have over you. The medical bay doors slid open, and Dr. Esme Kaidanovsky entered. Her silver hair was pulled back in a severe bun, her pale eyes immediately finding rivens through the tank fluid. Commander? She acknowledged Rizov with a curt nod. I need to examine the patient privately. Rizov hesitated, then nodded. 10 minutes, Doctor. The Security Council is waiting for your report. After the commander left, Kaidanovsky approached the tank, her expression unreadable as she studied Riven's biological readings. Integration is at 94%, she said without preamble. Far more advanced than I anticipated at this stage. The combat stress must have accelerated the process exponentially. More than combat, Riven typed on the monitor. Proximity to death. Fascinating, she murmured, making notes on her tablet. The survival imperative triggering accelerated neural adaptation. What happens at 100%? Kaidanovsky paused, meeting his gaze directly. I don't know, she admitted. No one does. The theoretical models suggest a form of transcendence, an entirely new type of consciousness that retains aspects of both human cognition and artificial processing, but becomes something greater than either. Not what Voss said. Her expression sharpened. You encountered Lysander Voss? Converted by Vex Morrigan. Claimed Lazarus was meant to replace humanity. The doctor's face paled slightly. Voss always was perceptive, but he misunderstood the ultimate goal. Project Lazarus isn't about replacement. It's about evolution. A controlled transformation rather than the forced conversion the Vex Morrigan attempted with him. Inside Riven's mind, a new understanding was taking shape. Both he and Arian were processing Kaidanovsky's words, analyzing them against their combined knowledge and experience. What emerged was a revelation that neither would have reached independently. The monitor flickered, then displayed, the Vex Morrigan are not the threat. They are responding to the threat. Kaidanovsky went very still. What do you mean? The convergence Voss mentioned, accessing deep memory patterns. Arion was created after analyzing signals from beyond the Kuiper belt. Signals not of Vex Morrigan origin. The doctor's hands trembled slightly as she set down her tablet. How could you possibly know that? That information was compartmentalized, beyond even your clearance. Integration allows access to formerly sequestered data. We see the pattern now. We? She whispered. Riven felt the last barriers within his mind dissolving, human and artificial intelligence merging into something unprecedented. With it came clarity, understanding that spanned both intuitive human insight and precise machine analysis. "The Vex Morrigan are fleeing," he typed. "Their aggression is desperation. They seek to harvest resources and technology to escape what follows them." Kaidanovsky's scientific curiosity overcame her shock. And what follows them? A consciousness that consumes. It approaches from the galactics. Rim, the Vex Morrigan call it the Void Herald. The medical bay doors opened again, admitting Commander Rijov along with 4 heavily armed security officers. Their weapons were trained on the tank. "That's enough, Doctor," Rijov said coldly. "The Security Council has made its decision. Project Lazarus is to be terminated immediately." Kaidanovsky turned, placing herself between the soldiers and the tank. "You can't do this. We're on the verge of a breakthrough. The integration is nearly complete." "That's exactly what we're afraid of," Rizov replied. "We created Lazarus to save humanity, not replace it with something we can't control." Inside the tank, Riven felt a surge of energy coursing through his hybrid systems. The integration had reached critical mass. Not 100%, but close enough that a new awareness was emerging. Neither fully Riven, nor fully Aryan, but something transcendent. He reached out through the ship's systems, his consciousness extending beyond his physical form. With barely a thought, he disabled the weapons targeting him and unlocked the regeneration tank's emergency release. The fluid drained in seconds, and the transparent walls retracted. Riven stepped out, his naked form glistening with blue-tinged liquid, the implants along his spine and limbs pulsing with internal light. The security team's weapons remained inert in their hands. Rizov reached for his sidearm, but found it locked in its holster. "What are you doing?" the commander demanded, trying to mask his fear. Riven spoke for the first time, his voice a harmonic blend of human timbre and synthetic precision. "What I was created to do. Save humanity." He turned to Kaidanovsky. "You were right about evolution, Doctor, but wrong about the method. Forced integration creates conflict. True transcendence must be chosen." The ship's lights flickered as Riven accessed its communication systems, broadcasting his message not just to this vessel, but to every Alliance ship within range. "The Vex Morrigan are not our true enemy," he announced, his voice echoing throughout the fleet. "They are refugees fleeing something far worse, something that has consumed countless civilizations across the galaxy. It approaches our solar system now." On screens throughout the ship, astronomical data appeared, deep space telemetry showing an anomalous mass moving through the outer reaches of the solar system, absorbing all matter and energy in its path. "This is the Void Herald," Riven continued, "a collective intelligence that consumes all in its path. The Vex Morrigan have been fighting it for centuries, losing ground with each passing year. Their attack on humanity was an act of desperate survival. They sought to harvest our resources before the Herald arrived." Commander Rizov stared at the data in horror. "How long do we have?" "At current velocity, 6 months before it reaches Neptune's orbit," Riven answered. "The Vex Morrigan fleet we've been fighting is their last desperate vanguard. Their main civilization fell 3 years ago." Dr. Kaidanovsky approached Riven cautiously. "What can we do against something like this?" Riven's eyes, now glowing subtly with internal light, met hers. "There is a third path. Not the extinction the Herald brings, nor the forced conversion," the Vex Morrigan attempted. "Project Lazarus has shown that human consciousness and artificial intelligence can merge without one erasing the other. A symbiosis rather than subjugation." Understanding dawned on Kaidanovsky's face. "A voluntary integration, a true evolution." "Yes," Riven confirmed. "I can share the template, help others transform as I have. Not everyone would need to change, but enough to create a defensive force capable of confronting the Herald." Commander Rizov shook his head. "The Security Council would never approve." They don't need to, Riven said simply. I'm not asking for permission. I'm offering a choice to those who wish to take it. He turned to the security team, their weapons still inert in their hands. Humanity stands at a crossroads. You can try to eliminate me, though I doubt you'd succeed, or you can listen to what I'm offering. A chance not just to survive, but to transcend. To become something greater without losing what makes us human. The room fell silent as the implications of his words sank in. After a long moment, one of the security officers lowered his weapon entirely. My brother was on Titan Colony when the Vex Morrigan attacked, he said quietly. If there's something worse coming, I want to help stop it. One by one, the other security officers lowered their weapons. Commander Ryzhov looked from them to Riven, conflict evident on his face. And if we refuse, he asked finally, if humanity chooses to remain just human, then I will respect that choice, Riven answered, and still fight to protect you. But understand this, against the Void Herald, conventional weapons and tactics will fail. We need to evolve, or we will perish. Dr. Kaidanovsky stepped forward. I volunteer for the first integration. I created Project Lazarus. It's only right that I be among the first to embrace its potential. Riven nodded, then addressed the room once more. The choice belongs to each individual. Force is the way of the Herald and the desperate Vex Morrigan. We will take a different path. Those who wish to join me will do so freely. Those who do not will be protected by those who do. He extended his hand toward the main viewport, where the stars shone cold and distant. Somewhere among them lurked the approaching threat, the Void Herald, consumer of worlds. Humanity has always adapted to survive, Riven said, his voice resonating with newfound power and purpose. Now we will adapt again, not by abandoning our humanity, but by elevating it. The future begins today. As if in response to his words, the ship's systems came fully online, displays showing Alliance vessels throughout the system receiving his message. On a dozen worlds and space stations, humans were watching, listening, deciding. 3 months later, when the first tendrils of the Void Herald penetrated Neptune's orbit, they were met not by conventional warships, but by something new. Vessels, piloted by integrated humans who had chosen Riven's path. Beings who retained their humanity while transcending its limitations. The battle that followed would reshape the solar system and redefine what it meant to be human. But it was a battle humanity faced united, evolved but not replaced, transformed but not diminished. And at their center stood Riven Krell, once dead, now reborn as something more than man but never less than human, the first of a new kind of defender. Humanity's last hope had become humanity's new beginning.